AP English Language and Composition students, welcome to lesson 48. This is your first practice test multiple choice answer explanations based on the ones that you said you had some trouble with. I always like to, well, let me preface everything here since this is the first time that you're going over one of these tests. The multiple choice you will learn a lot from if you pay attention. It's 45% of the test value for the whole test in May, 55% for the 3 essays total, 45% for the multiple choice. So you need to do well, right? And as I said or wrote, if you get basically 5s on your essays out of 9 and a little over 50% on the multiple choice, maybe 1/6 instead of 5s on the essays, you probably will get a 3, which is passing on the AP test. But that's not that easy to do all that. So let's get down to work right now. So you're going to learn a lot about vocabulary and the antecedent type questions and so on, grammar. Every year students say, oh, there wasn't a lot of grammar on the test. There's always grammar. It's just maybe not stated, like, is this a prepositional phrase or something, but it's in there. So, our first passage is by Annie Dillard. She is in your literary anthology, though we haven't read her yet. So what's going on? What should we notice about this passage? What an essay can do? Basically, it's an argument that is saying that the essay is better, which is nonfiction, is more effective and better than fictional writing, right? So here we see it's better than the short story in the first paragraph, better than poems in the second paragraph, and then the third paragraph is about, and here maybe a little bit of understanding of vocabulary might be helpful. We have the word voracious, not voracious, V-O-R, but voracious. And we have the word veracity, right here. Okay. And veracity is repeated. So, and we have the word that is the synonym for those, all right? V-E-R is your root. Veritable, we have verity, verify. We should be able to figure the meaning of these words out because their synonym is there, but their root, we have many words with their root, and they all mean truth, actual, something that's actual, real, or true. So the essay deals in truth, is the idea there. I'm just going very fast through that. But so some of you had questions on number 2. So the second question was based on a careful reading of the first paragraph. The reader can conclude that the author blames the death of the novel of ideas on the answer is artificiality. How are we supposed to get that? The idea is that in fiction, in the short stories, we have long-winded characters. They're not realistic. Okay, yes, some teachers might be long-winded like me, but we have artificial, type people in these fictional stories. So artificiality goes with that. I'm going to have to move pretty fast here. But some of you had questions on number 5 and number 6. So let's look at that. All right. In paragraph 3, in the sentence beginning with the real world, the word there refers to the real world. So what is this is the type of question that might be most repeated, one of the most repeated anyway on the AP test. It's an antecedent question. So what something refers back to? The thing that it refers back to is called an antecedent. So if we looked at sentence 3, I'm just going to look at that on here. The real world. Okay. Paragraph 3. That's why I'm not finding it. Okay. There we go. And veracity isn't much of a drawback to the reader. The real world. Oh, yeah. Okay, so that's helpful to look at that. Sorry for the delay. We have to look back at the passage. So we had, right down here, the real world arguably exerts a greater fascination on people than any fictional one. Many people at least spend their whole lives. No, that's not. There. Okay, they spend their whole lives there. They spend their whole lives in the real world. Okay, that is the antecedent, all right, for that word. All right, moving on. Some of you had questions on number 6. The primary rhetorical strategy the author uses to develop the second paragraph. Better than. Essay better than poem. That's comparing, contrasting. Rhetorical strategies are such as cause-effect, process, analysis, description, narration, also classification. But the main ones are comparing, contrasting, and cause-effect. We do have comparing, contrasting. All right. Moving on. Some of you had questions on number 8. The question was an example of parallel structure. All right. We actually have to go to the question for that because the sentence is right in the question. What is parallel structure? Some of you might find this too easy, but it's very obvious here, even if. So parallelism is some sort of repetition. We see it there. It doesn't have to be the same words, but that's what it is there. Any other questions in this section? Yeah, actually. Some people had questions on number 10. The tone. Yes, let's look at that. Well, what you will find normally, and when they have the pairs of words, one is true and one is false. And so you can't just jump to your answer very quickly. You have to find the one where both are true. Impartial. No, this person has a point of view. Right? Critical, finding fault with, or analyzing. So this is true, but this is false. This is true, but this is false. There's no condescending going on, but it is a pretty formal essay. Colloquial means informal, all right? So it's not. The essay that you were just reading by Annie Dillard is pretty formal, but it is straightforward and forthright and honest and frank. That's candid. Clinical moral. It's not moralistic. It doesn't have to do with ethics, but it is like really precise. So it's clinical. It is both of these things, though. The author is very sure of herself and her point of view, and we do learn a bit, okay? So it is this. Next one. A lot of people had questions on number. Okay, that's the next section. All right, so let's go on to the next section. Yes, this might have been a little difficult, this section. I do have to keep track of the time here, start a new video when I'm at 15 minutes, so let me take a break. I got a lot of time. Okay. So yes, there were a lot of questions on this section. So let's go through it. Henry James, a novelist from the later 1800s, wrote Portrait of a Lady, his most famous novel. Anyway, so he is giving advice to upcoming novelists. And then he's saying, what constitutes a good novel and a good novel list. So what constitutes a good novel is that a lot of the idea is that it has to be artistic and it has to be beautiful, but where is it going to come from? Intelligence, right? So it's the quality of the mind, it's the intelligence of the person, the quality of the mind of the author that will create a good novel. Then we have a word here. There's a question on this word, axiom. I always teach about that word. We have some synonyms we should know. It just sure does pop up a lot. One synonym of axiom, and the word means something that is always true, something you can depend on, some statement or idea you can depend on. It's wise or true. That's an axiom. A synonym of that word is aphorism with PH, not F, aphorism, or a maxim, M-A-X-I-M. Right, so maxim, aphorism, axiom. So there's a question on that. Now, look at again, we have the idea of the superficial mind. So he's just stating in the opposite what he said earlier. You have to be intelligent. But if you're not going to get a good novel. Okay. But moving on here, we do get a little bit of difficulty with this word, perhaps. Ingenuous. I know there's not a question on that word, I don't think, per se, but we get the idea later on of that word because he has the word sincere here somewhere. So novel is right here. Okay? So he's speaking to very motivated young people who want to be novelists, and he says that is the quality that makes a good novel too, is sincerity. And ingenuous is a synonym of it. It doesn't seem like it. Seems like the prefix means not genuine, but that's not the idea of that word. Okay, he's only going to be writing about speaking to motivated students. So what constitutes a good novel? It comes from a good mind, and it's sincere. But after that, the rest of the passage is all about, there's a lot of freedom in writing as opposed to the other art mediums, painting, music, and so on. There's a lot of freedom, and there's not rigidity, all right? The other arts are confined. You don't have the freedom as you do in novel writing. But I think here's where he contradicts himself. There's a question on this. The only condition that I can think of attaching to the composition of the novel is that it be sincere. This freedom is a splendid privilege. Here's where he contradicts. Do not listen to those who would shut you up into the corners of it and tell you that it's only here or there that art inhabits. He's telling them where art inhabits and freedom, but he says don't listen to these people who tell you, that there's a certain way to write a good novel. He's kind of saying that, so he's sort of contradicting himself. But where's the freedom? It's in the different styles of writing. So he cites a lot of novelists, Dumas, Dickens, Gustave Flaubert, but they all had different styles. They're different nationalities, too. And so he says, if they all succeeded, it's a wide open field, okay? So there's room for all styles. So you have a lot of questions on this section, which starts with number 11. I'm just going to have to go through almost everything. It was just number 17 that you didn't have a question on. Okay, got to check my time.